Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Office of Federal Emergency Relief Programs office hour. This is a time that we come together the first Thursday of every month to pull together some information and highlight some new learnings that we have as a team and or try to comprehensively address any questions that we have seen over the last few weeks. So welcome to the new year. Hopefully you folks had some time to rest and relax and come back as we enter in 2023 with a number of maybe potentially some resolutions and some items that we want to work on. I'm sure that all of you are familiar with myself, Shelley Shassy-Jandra, the Director of the Office of Federal Emergency Relief Programs.
Sorry about that. It's Monique Sullivan, and I am the ARP coordinator.
Karen Kuziak is having some technical difficulties this morning, but will be joining us, and she is our CARES and Carissa coordinator.
Good morning, I'm Kevin Harrington. I'm the Gear and EANS coordinator.
Good morning, I'm Maisha Asha. I'm the fiscal coordinator.
Good morning, I'm Deanna Roberge. I am a management analyst.
And I'm Rebecca Mitchell, and I'm also a management analyst.
Good morning, I'm Terry Beal, and I'm a contracted invoice reviewer. First and foremost, we want to wish everyone a very happy new year. Our topics for today include updated ESSER frequently asked questions, purchasing food with federal funds, disposition of federally funded purchases, Mo equity, multilingual and homeless application and due date. And today's objective, participants will be able to use ESSER funds effectively and in alignment with federal requirements. Our emergency relief timeline. As you know, our CARES ESSER 1 liquidation period closed on 12/30/22. Our Carissa ESSER 2 funds need to be obligated by September 30th, 2023, and submit reimbursement requests to Maine DOE by December 30th, 2023. The ARP ESSER 3 funds need to be obligated by September 30th, 2024, and submit reimbursement requests to DOE by December 30th, 2024. And then the liquidation, the drawing down and expenditure of funds by grantee for obligations incurred during the grant's legal obligation period. Timely liquidation occurs during the legal obligation period on and through the first 120 days after the final day of that period or an extension of the period by U.S. Department of Education.
And I think now is just a great time to provide just a friendly reminder that we have about 9 months left of Carissa ESSER 2. So you may want to take a look at how much funding you have yet to invoice for. Maybe when was the last time you invoiced for some of those funds, because we want to be sure that we're utilizing that money at the local level effectively, as efficiently as possible. So it is an opportunity to maybe meet with your business manager and your applicant coordinator and some other leadership team members at your district level and say, hey, where are we at? Let's take a check to see if we're spending on track, if we've submitted our reimbursements timely. All of those items are beneficial for the financial end run, but also in regards to reporting to us when we are going to request a performance report from you folks.
On December 7th, we have updated ESSER FAQs. The document is an update to the May 2021 FAQs, 27 new FAQs and updates to 8 of the existing FAQs were added to provide more robust information for grantees. The new items are marked new December 7, 2022, and the updated items are marked updated December 7, 2022, and there's a link to view those changes.
We wanted to go over food purchases with federal funds. In general, when you're using federal grant funds to pay for food, when a grantee is hosting a meeting, usually there is a high burden of proof to show that paying for food and beverages is necessary. It is usually encouraged that when you're hosting a meeting, the grantee should structure your agenda and the meeting so there's time for participants to purchase their own food and beverages. And while these determinations will be made on a case-by-case basis, there may be some circumstances where the cost would be permissible. So with this, it is definitely case by case, and some may be approved and some may not. And then if it's ESSER specific, may an LEA use ESSER and GEAR funds to provide meals for students, which was updated on December 7th of 2022. And it says, yes, under certain circumstances, an LEA has other means of providing food services, such as through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. As a result, the department encourages LEAs to use their federal funds with this specific purpose of providing food services to students prior to using the ESSER or GEAR funds for the purpose. But if that funding is not available, you may, and the need arises, you may be able to use these funds.
Shelley, I just wanted to add a little piece to this. I know that with ESSER funds, there's been, the no supplement, not to supplant rule, and whatever you need to do that's related to COVID, prepare, prevent, and respond to COVID. But we put this in here because we have been getting some invoice requests or reimbursement requests for food. And we wanted just to remind everyone that these food requirements, especially the general, those have been around prior to the ESSER funding. And so that rule is still in effect, or that expectation, the guidance is still in effect. So we just want districts to remember that even though there is a lot of flexibility with ESSER, abide by the guidance for food. And then on the ESSER specific, there's a lot of other funding out there available for food for students. And so as you can tell from this FAQ document, that they really want those other resources to be utilized, and then ESSER to be utilized as kind of like a secondary source. Not that it's not allowable, but they want you to, there's a lot of other federal food or federal funds that are earmarked for food. So that's why we put that in, just kind of a gentle reminder about food.
And as you can see, the sort of the takeaway from our team in this regards is food is generally not an allowable expense, right? It's very rare. It talks about that right in our grant award notification that we receive as the SAU, as the SEA. So even when we look at the flexibility that the ESSER funds may have allowed, when you're looking at that FAQ document, you can see it's truly not the tangible. It's not the pineapples and the bananas and the apples that we are going to utilize ESSER funds for. It's really those items to be able to provide food to students, the additional cost, the driving of the food to homes in the onset of COVID, the additional preparation materials needed, the individual utensil containers versus having metal silverware that everyone touches and drops off at the dishwasher counter. So really thinking about what is the intent, and is there really truly a necessity to have food utilized with these emergency funds?
Next, we want to talk about the disposition of federally funded purchases. So disposition is the process of transferring, donating, or selling supplies, equipment, and/or real property that are no longer needed for a federally funded project. Supplies are any tangible property that does not fall under the definition of equipment. Equipment is any tangible property, including information technology systems having a useful life of more than 1 year and per unit acquisition cost that equals or exceeds $5,000. and real property, which is land, including land improvements, structures, but excludes movable machinery and equipment. So using supplies, equipment, and real property. For supplies, if the residual inventory of the unused supplies is less than $5,000, the supplies may be used. And any tangible property may be used for equipment if they are needed, whether or not the project continues to be supported by the federal award. And then for real property, it can be used for the authorized purpose of the project as long as it's needed or obtained written approval by the federal awarding agency for use. And then there's more detailed rules on it. And then in accordance with the CRF, when the supplies, equipment, or real property acquired with the ESSER funding are no longer needed, the steps below should be followed, which is step 1, request disposition instructions. Step 2, calculate the fair market value. And step 3, disposition options. And so here are different options. And then we have some examples on the next slide. So for example, a minivan purchase to transport students experiencing homelessness. The need was identified due to the increase of students experiencing homelessness and limited shelters in the responsible SAUs. The minivan was purchased in whole with the ESSER funds, but there was no longer a need for the additional transportation and no other federal allowable use. The SAU would like to sell the minivan and has calculated the fair market value as $27,117. The SAU can sell the minivan and all but $500 or 10%, whichever is less, will be returned to the U.S. Department of Education. And then for 84 used Apple MacBook Pro 15-inch to 2019 Touch Bar with Core i9 processors, so computers, the need was identified due to hybrid learning and one-to-one access. The laptops were purchased in full with ESSER funds, but there is no longer the need for one-to-one access. The SAU would like to sell the 6 laptops and has calculated the fair market value as $969 per unit, which equals $5,814. The SAU can retain, sell, or dispose of.
Our team is also working on putting this disposition information together in a handout, which we've also sent to our U.S. program officer to review to be sure that it's in accordance with all of the requirements of the ESSER funding. So we do hope to have a resource for you folks here in the next couple months or so that you can think about what does this mean for us and for these items that we are no longer needing for the original purpose and or another federal allowable purpose. We do want to sort of highlight the fact that you should be reaching out to our team if there is a need to retain, sell, or dispose of any of the items that you've purchased in whole or part with ESSER funds. And also that fair market value is going to be key in determining the next steps. But essentially the very first step is to reach out to our team and engage in a conversation with a member of our team, because what happens is, for example, with this minivan, you're working with a third-party vendor to purchase this minivan. That money needs to be returned to us, the department, which also then needs to be returned to the U.S. Department of Education. It is not an acquisition that you folks are making financially, which means you cannot profit from the sale of any of those items, which I think is key for us to all keep in mind.
So we just wanted to give you an update on the MO equity. For those SAUs that are not accepted for meeting MO equity, which we have listed down at the bottom of the slide, we did request an extension from the U.S. Department of Education to publish this data on the OFERP website, or the Office of Federal Emergency Relief Programs website. It was supposed to be published last Saturday, or December 31st, but is now we have a new publishing date, and that is on January 20th, which is not a ton of time, but we wanted to let you guys know that for those districts that are not accepted. And then next slide, yeah, Shelley. So we also wanted to let districts know that we will, to the best of our ability, and we are reviewing the survey data that's been submitted to us through the Microsoft Form MO Equity Survey form that we sent out to all the non-accepted SAUs. And we will let you know if you're meeting or not meeting before, hopefully our fingers are crossed, we're able to do this before we publish that data on January 20th. We are here and available to provide any technical assistance to SAUs. We've been doing a lot of technical assistance for these SAUs. And what I put down at the bottom of this slide was, this is the information that we are going to be posting on the website. So, and I apologize, I had to split it between, I had to cut it in half to be able to fit on the slide and not be so tiny that you would need a magnifying glass to read it. So we do need the NCES code, and we'll put all that in there for you guys. But we just wanted to show you why that survey form is so important, because we have to, one, identify if the school is high poverty, which are the high poverty schools, what's the per pupil funding in 21, 22, and then also for the district. And then it does the calculations there for you. And the last column that says maintain, or actually there's two columns, maintained physical equity, and then maintained staffing equity. And we just want to let you know that this is what we're going to be using to post on the website, but we'll also try to send this to you for the non-accepted SAUs. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that probably means that you are an accepted SAU. But if I know there's a few looking at who is the participants, there are a few of you who are non-accepted and had to do this survey form. And like I said, our hope is that we'll be able to get this out to you before we publish it on our website.
So updating GEMS contacts is pretty important, because we can get these, if we have to send information back to you, we can get that as quick as possible back to us so we can get these invoices processed. So if you're an outgoing staff member or have the login or password of the outgoing staff member, you can go to the site listed here and select Federal Grant Reimbursement System, and you can do your updates there. Also in application updates, updating superintendent and applicant coordinator information is done in the application setup page of each application. Important information so we can reach out to the right person, get the response back as soon as possible to get these funds turned over. And the website does have step-by-step instructions on both of these. So subgrants to support additional needs. On September 13th, 2022, additional funding to support the needs of students actively experiencing homelessness and/or multilingual learners was released. Your SAU's application, either affirming or declining participation, is needed by Friday, January 20th, 2023. And here is the steps for what you need to do. Go to the website, click multilingual learners and students experiencing homelessness application, log in with support from your SAU's ESSER applicant coordinator, click application setup, and complete the superintendent information. Select no to opt out or yes to opt in. Click submission in the menu bar to submit and certify the application. And any additional questions needed, you can certainly reach out and ask. Please join us on Tuesday, January 10th at 1 p.m. And you can register in advance for that meeting to go over more of these if you have any additional questions. And slide 14 is just some more places where you can go and reach out and have any information needed on any of these funds.
Hi, Happy New Year, everyone. Zoom has not been cooperating with me, and I needed to come into this meeting through Maisha, and that's why my name says Maisha, but I'm Karen Kuziak. The last couple of slides are mine. We host Thursdays, the first Thursday of the month at 9 o'clock. We host meetings very similar to this one, where we present new information or we're available to answer questions from participants. There's a registration link that, when it's working well, and I'm sure it will work well for you, just that didn't for me today, you can pretty much register immediately and be immediately admitted, or you can register ahead of time and have the link sent to you. And we also publish quite regularly, once a month anyway, towards the middle of the month, a newsletter that just has any updated information. Sometimes it's a repetition of things that we've brought up and stressed at this meeting. Other times it's something new, just to keep the field informed about these funds and how they're being used and what you should know about them. They come out through the GEM system. So that's why it's very important that you have the updated contact information for GEM. And here is our team pretty much. There will be some transitions as folks move off this temporary team. We are a temporary grant funded team. Some folks will be moving on to other full-time ongoing positions within the department as the grant period moves on, understandably, but we will keep this contact information updated for the field. And I think Shelley will ask if you have questions. Go ahead.
We have been monitoring the chat box and we did not see any questions in the chat box. So now we're just going to provide you folks with the opportunity to address any one of us for any questions. And there are a few, yep, some requests for some links, and we will work on getting those right into the chat box for you folks. Any other questions that we might be able to address? So that link is to the newest FAQ that we mentioned at the top of the hour. It does have some new questions as well as some enhancements of questions. If you happened to notice, the question that we used about food and using ESSER and GEAR funding for food had an update. So that had been enhanced at the December 7th revision. And those FAQs are from the US Department of Education. Those are not FAQs that we generate in-house. That is really related to the funding agency.
I would also say that there are highlighted details about using the funds for construction. That's B6. Nothing has changed. It's just that there's further clarification.